Way they're going.
Yes.
I'm gonna bring up. Oh, I agree. I agree.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And welcome everybody. Come out on a beautiful day, at least when I got here it was, so I hope it's still that way. Our first item is, roll call.
Miss Diana Arnold. Mr. Kevin Beatty. Honorable Scott Bates.
Here.
Honorable John Black. Honorable Bernard Bowling.
Here.
Honorable Byron Chapman, I know he's in the hallway. Honorable Jack Kaufman.
Here.
Honorable Troy Ethington. Mr. Chris John Streets for the Honorable Jeff Gahan.
Here.
Honorable Nicole George for the Honorable Craig Greenberg. Thank you, Nicole. Mr. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Honorable Treva Hodges. Honorable Maria Johnson.
Here.
Honorable Dan Ison.
Here.
Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable John Ogburn.
Here.
Honorable Carol Pike. Honorable John Schellenberger.
Here.
Honorable Jerry Summers.
Here.
Honorable Rick Tonini.
Here.
Honorable Jim Travis.
Here.
Honorable Scott Travis.
Here.
Mr. Brian Fogel for the Honorable David Vogel. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is the meeting's minutes from the last meeting, I believe was in February. And entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any changes, anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, March financial statements. Freedom?
Thank you. First, I wanted to let you know that the February financials start on page 37 through 46. I won't be going through those. I'll be going through the March, but I wanted you to know that it was in the book. If you want to go back and look at it later on. Okay, so as of March 30th of 2024, we're 75% through fiscal year 24. And just looking at our fiscal year 24 summary of elements, we have CED spend at $685,560 for 74.92% of our of our budget. And then as of, so transportation total is the 2,083,320, so 41.18%. And if you look down a little further, you go to social services, we're at 4,052,974, and that's at 58.60%. And then our overall total, just, well, looking at our operating, 7,180,585. And then aging program related is 14,488,489, for a total of 21,661,74, for 64.29%. And then just looking at our agency-wide financials, our current revenue for this month of March is 2,421,345.32. And our year-to-date is the 21,605,504.41. And then our current expenditures are the 2,394,013.87. And our year-to-date is the 21,661,074.28. And as I said before, we're 64.29% as of March 2024. And on page 5, we're going on to our, page 54. We're going to our balance sheet. And our cash is a total of $2,704,131.14. And then our total receivables is $6,253. With our total liabilities at $20,516,270.14. And then our total liability and projects are $2,241,180.21. Do we have any questions on any of that?
Does anyone have any questions of Frida? If not, I'll enjoy a motion to approve the financials.
Motion.
A second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the Kentucky Legislative Session Update. Shelley Hampton from KIPDA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jared, thank you all for the invitation to be here. It's good to see some friends in the room, all around. I first want to start by thanking your staff. I know, anytime our members have talked about their ads, they talk about how very important and critical they are to their own county success and community success. So I applaud the staff of this ad. It's a large one. There's a lot on your plate. So kudos to you all. And you have a great leader in Jared. He is very involved, and I lean on him a lot for things that I need that I don't understand, how you all get done everything that you do. So thank you for having me. I'm rested now after a 60-day session. As you all know, the even numbered year sessions are 60 legislative days, which is kind of like an alternate universe because it takes almost 4 months to get through those days. Budget year, state budget, judiciary branch budget, legislative branch budget, a few things that certainly local government folks are interested in, maybe small things like a road project list, and for counties, all of the constitutional statutory duties that our county governments carry out on behalf of the state that we do not get fully funded for. Right now, the government, the state government has quite a bit of money. They've built up a good reserve, a budget reserve. They did spend a little bit of that in this budget, too far for some, not enough for others. But it was overall a good session. It was long. And I know for those of you that have been around long enough, I've been with KACO since 2012, and I was with the County Judges Association 12 years prior to that. So I lived through the first Beshear administrations where you had 14 years or 14 budget cut actions. And so to have this kind of a budget in place for those of you who might be newer to office, it's rarefied air. And so hopefully, I know it is their intent for all of us to make the most of that funding while they have it and while you have it. I don't have a lot of time to go deep into too much, but I do want to mention some things, and if you have other questions, I can talk after. Most people know how to get a hold of me. I know Jared certainly does if you have any other questions, and I would encourage you to look at certainly Keiko's, I'm sure the city's website as well, but there's a lot of information. We will have our wrap up completed by the end of the week and on the website by Monday. We will have a members briefing on Tuesday to go over the entire session and everything that impacts county governments for that. So there'll be a lot more detail for that hour-long Zoom. And I hope all the county folks in the room will take advantage of that time to hear that and certainly continue to ask any questions. So 60 days, 30 billion just in general funds alone, state budget for 2 years, much less all the restricted, the federal, et cetera. 1,220 bills filed. And 204 bills and 11 resolutions made across the finish line. So that's about 18%. That's just a little bit low for what they normally pass, but it's pretty close to what they normally do for a long session. Like I said, they passed the state budget. There is, as you all know, the caveat the legislature is trying to gradually get Kentucky, if we can, down to a 0% on our state income tax. That is a big lift. There are triggers and guardrails in place. It doesn't automatically happen. They still have to take an affirmative vote. The 2 triggers have to be met before they can do that. One of those triggers was met, another was not last year. So it will stay for the tax years 24 and 25. It will stay at its 4%. That's down from 6. So they are on their way. The next possible cut will be in 26. They'd like to get down to the next 0.5% of 3.5. So for now, the next 2 tax years, they'll stay at 4. Of course, they got the road plan. There are 2 constitutional amendments. They went 0 for 2 the last time the legislature put some of those on the ballot. So they're out again to see what they can pass. One of them is a preference, yes or no, for school choice. Another would not allow non-citizens to vote, even though that's already in law. They felt the need to enshrine it in the Constitution. So those will be your 2 constitutional amendment choices on the ballot this fall. Just while I'm in Jefferson County and city of Louisville, as most of you all probably know, they changed those races to nonpartisan as of January of 25, the mayor and the Metro Council. Those will be nonpartisan elections. So they've done a few things different. They always have a budget bill and they always have a revenue bill to go along with that. And they also have a one-time appropriations bill. And they did that separately because, again, there are those triggers and guardrails so they can meet their projections next time so they can lower that income tax rate. So they did that all in a separate bill. So House Bill 6 is that state 2-year biennial state budget, 131.7 billion total with everything, with all the different funds, including the general fund. Some of the highlights, there's a lot to unpack, but some of the highlights for county governments. It maintains our per diem on our jail funding, with the state pays our full service jail counties to house state prisoners. It also maintains the court security payments at $15 an hour for the sheriff's office. Those folks are hard to come by, and that was raised in the last budget up from $9. They have to be paid $10 to be reimbursed for the $15 an hour, but you can't hardly find somebody actually to do that for less than that anyway. It also includes $5 million and $10 million in each respective year for grants to law enforcement and first responders for body armor. There's almost 20 million in what they called a rural infrastructure improvement fund. They have school resource officers funding, which is very helpful. Most of you all either help out with that, city or county, or both of you, or help the school. All 3 go in together, however that works. I know it's different for every community, but that was a big help. 16.5 million in the first year of the budget, 18 in the second. There are salaries for the school resource officers, and they will be reimbursed $20,000 for each campus employing at least 1 full-time off-site, not school, but campus. And then additional funding for counties and Commonwealth's attorneys. There's also a study they're going to do for jails for pretrial housing. They're going to look at how long Class A and B felons stay in our county jails after arraignment and before trial. How much does that cost? How long does it take per judge and per jurisdiction? So they're going to have 1.5 years to complete this study. It's going to take some time. I think it'll be very telling. And I'm hopeful that, and this was President Stiver's idea to do this, to see what that price tag would be. That is one of the, if not the biggest, one of the biggest expenses for accounting is paying for the jails. I mean, I don't know how you budget for it. I guess you have a special dartboard in your office where you say, I think we'll have this many inmates and, 27 of them are gonna need a transplant or dialysis or whatever. So I love y'all for trying to make up that budget. So that study again will come out in October of 25. Now, along with the budget, of course, that's one separate bill, House Bill 6. There was also a cleanup. There's always a cleanup because they pass it before veto, so that if the governor line item vetoes that budget bill, the legislature can come back and overturn it, or override it, which they always do. But the cleanup bill for the budget, Senate Bill 91, that also had funding for additional community projects from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund. Some of those are directed straight towards fiscal courts and water districts. And then 28 million from the EK Safe Fund. Recall that is from the Eastern Kentucky flood a couple of years ago. That will help some county and city governments with strained liquid fiscal liquidity issues. In other words, they're struggling to pay their monthly bills. I've talked to 4 of those judges in the last 2 weeks. One of them says he will run out of money to pay his regular monthly bills before December. So this is timely. Hopefully give us all time to help those counties figure out how they move on from here. But it's much appreciated by those counties so heavily hit. House Bill 1 was a one-time funding. They put everything that's not going to recur new in this bill. And so there's a lot to unpack. A few of the things that I do want to mention, if you all remember from last year, the grant bill, everybody called it House Bill 9, and the ads were heavily involved in that. Kind of went on a little bit of a tour with Chairman Petrie, who helped put that together with Representative Heath in last year's session. And that is to help cities and counties with their matching dollars to grab down federal funds. There's billions, literally billions in federal funds, but a lot of our communities can't afford the 25% match. And so that's what this is designed to help do. There's also something called the PDI, the Kentucky Product Development Initiative. It's for economic development. They put $35 million a year in that. That was probably successful in the last 2 years. So looking forward to seeing more projects that will be able to come to fruition because of that funding. Something else that I know my friends at the ads are familiar with, they have created and it's a terrible acronym, Kentucky Water or Wastewater Assistance for Troubled or Economically Restrained Systems. So it's either someone who's struggling or so there's an emergency issue with a particular water system. And they have put $75 million each year to go into that. And that's those 2 pots of money for the emergencies and then for those that are struggling. So that's a big shot in the arm for that. All general aviation airports got some funding, $200,000 grants each. A lot of times folks don't think about those airports outside of Lexington, Louisville, and Cincinnati, but those play a crucial part for those communities. There's $100 million for downtown Louisville revitalization, and we all know how desperately that is needed. There's also going to be a new law enforcement training academy created in Madisonville. There's a backup right now of almost a year to try to get somebody in a class. And that's a problem for counties and for cities. And so hopefully that will help ease some of the burden on the time. So they put $50 million towards that. And then they always pass a revenue bill to go along with their budget bills. So that's House Bill 8. And there's, again, a lot in all these bills that I can go into offline in a lot more detail. A lot of it had to do with broadband. There's a backlog right now for pole attachments. I'm not going to bore you with what that is, but if you can't connect on those pole attachments, it's really tough to get that broadband to those unserved and underserved areas. As they're supposed to be going first in priority. So this gives, one of the things they do is a credit on sales tax for broadband expansion expenses. There's also, they've removed the electric fee on hybrid vehicles. 2 years ago, they put a fee on electric, anything that was electric, partial or full. Well, hybrid vehicles are not fully electric because they don't have any plug-in capability. So anybody that's not going to use that charger really shouldn't pay that fee. So they've removed that fee beginning January 1 of 2025. That was a $60 annual fee, so they're going to take that off the books. Transportation budget is another one, very important, not only to local governments, but also to our ads as well. House Bill 265, it's 146 million in the first year and 157 million change for county road aid, based on the revenue sharing formula. And the cabinet, they're doing things a little differently with the discretionary. They've gone back to, dare I say it, back in the days when you were line item projects, but that's what they have done this year with, House Joint Resolution 92. You can go online and look at that and look up your county, and see what your projects are. They have to be an 8, a 9, or a 10, obviously, on their, rankings. And they are gonna make that an annual process, at least for now. We'll see what they decide next year. And then there's 25 million in each year of the biennium for, the county and city bridge improvement program, and those can get very expensive, very quickly, so that's much appreciated. Let's see, they have also lowered, lower capacity electric vehicle chargers. I know there's a couple of churches where I live in Lexington that have put one in for their parishioners, or their congregation. Anything like that, they will be removed from the EVs, which tax, they don't create enough capacity to really keep up with the really strenuous reporting requirements for a church or some other group. Lastly, the judicial branch budget, one particular thing in there that we thought was good, for counties, and it requires, our courts, our AOC courts, to use their video arraignment system that was funded 2 years ago. By the state. And if the court does not use that video arraignment system, instead of telling somebody that's lodged in a Bullitt County jail that they have to go to the McCracken County jail because that judge wants them in front of them, but they have the ability to use arraignment, video arraignment, then the court has to pay for that defendant to be driven all the way across the state. And, you know, hopefully that won't be a problem and they'll start using the technology that the state and their estimation has so graciously given, to AOC. Next I want to talk about, real quick, and I'm trying to stay under time here for Jared. There was an annexation bill. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail for that. It was a long year for cities and counties to sit down and work that out. As you all probably know, there was a task force last summer, that kind of got all of the facts on the table. And, you know, through several conversations between us and the cities, I think we were able to craft something that is very fair. We did not get everything we wanted. Cities did not get everything they wanted. In Frankfurt, they call that a really good bill. But I think that ideally, the bill never gets used. Ideally, everybody else does what a lot of our members are able to do, which is to sit down and have a conversation with their cities and work something out for the betterment of the entire county. Everybody lives in the county. I understand the cities have their own things that they have to do, that they're required to do, standards to live up to for the people that voted them in as well. So I think one of those is to sit down and have a frank conversation and try to get that worked out. And if that can't happen, then this would have to go into effect. But it really is our hope that people can do that people can sit down and work together for the betterment of their whole community. Rising tide lifts all ships. And so there's much more that we have to work together as local governments than divides us. And I hope we can get back to that this next session. And again, there's a lot more on our website about all of this. I've already gone through some of the broadband, the water. Another issue that we've gotten a lot of calls about in the last 2 weeks has been medical cannabis. So there is a Kentucky Office of Medical Cannabis. They have a great website, a lot of FAQs. We've got on our website a section devoted to that. It goes through all of your all's options. You should know whether you're a city or a county. The bill that they passed last year was amended this year. They've moved the timeline up for folks to get a license. Those licenses are not cheap. So don't think July 2nd, somebody's going to go out and have a license on July 3rd and start selling this stuff with a prescription from a doctor on July 4th. It's not going to happen. It's going to take some time to apply, to get the license. They move that data so that people who think they want to do this in this industry can get their ducks in a row. It's going to take some time. They've divided the state up into, I think, 11 or 13 regions, and there's a limited number growers and dispensaries and all of that that have to go along with it. So this is not like alcohol law. This is totally different. And so everybody has options. Counties can do nothing. They can prohibit it. They can pass a resolution to prohibit it. They can pass a resolution that puts fees in place, but you have to be very careful with the fees because you will have to demonstrate how those fees equal out as close as you can get to the extra cost incurred. And so it's not in any way, shape, or form a slush fund for anybody. Cities don't necessarily have to do anything. If the county prohibits it and the city wants to do it within their own borders, they can do that. But I will tell you that if you do nothing, and folks go ahead and get their licenses to take part in whatever part of this they want to do, whether they're a producer or a dispensary or what have you. If they do that between now and January and you do nothing as a fiscal court or a city, and then in February you decide you want to prohibit it, those folks are grandfathered in. One of the options is to put it on the ballot in the next general election. Well, that's in November of this year. If you want to wait because you're not sure, your fiscal court, your city commission, they don't want to talk about it right now, it's too controversial, let's put it on the ballot, but maybe we'll do it next time. There are no elections in 25, so you're looking at 26. So then you've had 2 years for all of these business people, and that's what they're gonna think about themselves as business people, are gonna spend their money, invest in your community, and open these dispensaries, and you can't do anything about it, they'll all be grandfathered in. So you need to think long and hard. We sent out that email, it was Tuesday, it was from me. All the details you could need, sample resolutions. I would encourage you to call Tim Sturgill or Richard Ernestine for legal questions in our office, but you do need to be thinking about that as a city or a county, what you do or don't want to do in that regard. I will tell you, for instance, Scott County is working with their 2 cities to put it on the ballot in November and let the people decide. It's a presidential election year. You're going to get more people at the ballot anyway. And for my folks, if you wait until 26 to put it on the ballot, you're going to be on the ballot too. Just put that in your little head and think about that. So a lot of questions for the implementation of that. It is a prescription. It's not going to be like a liquor store. So it's going to be very limited. There's a lot of questions that we've been answering. Again, we'll have a website, we'll have a webinar on May 8th. You'll get more about that in the mail. And I think I'll stop at that. There's a lot more to talk about, Jared, but I've run up to next 12 minutes, so I want to leave that alone unless somebody has a question.
What is it? On the medical marijuana, is it just a state license or can counties issue license as well?
You can, they will still absolutely pay insurance premium tax, occupational tax, license fee. It just, it's reasonable. What's reasonable in Shelby versus what's reasonable in Henry, you know, but it just can't be more than what you're gonna spend. And I know you probably remember this from when you lobbied, you know, a lot of cities and some counties, put on an alcohol tax and spend it on things they probably shouldn't have according to the statutes, and they got their hands slapped. So we don't need to be doing that with this. It just has to be level with what your expenses, your increased expenses are.
Any other questions for Shelley?
I really appreciate Shelley being here. Thank you for your partnership and support for both the area development districts and KIPDA. For this body, I think Shelley had touched on it, but House Bill 723 that built upon House Bill 9 from last session. Initially, that had followed what were the federally designated energy communities. And in the KIPDA region, that included 2 census blocks in western Jefferson County. So the rest of the region was left out. The way House Bill 720 reads, all our communities are now eligible. So that is a really big win. Thank you all for speaking with your legislators, and our CED department will probably be reaching out to you all just to see what projects you all have in mind. But that is a tremendous win for our region to be included in House Bill 723.
For sure. Great bill. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item is Transportation Policy Committee. Andy?
Sir, TPC met this room just a little while ago at 12:30. Much like this meeting, we took March off, so we had a busy agenda and picked up the demand on agenda items. So I'll go over them pretty quickly. We had a guest speaker from TARC, guest speakers plural from TARC, Alex Pozorski, their communications director, and, Aida Kopic, their planning director. They came and gave a chat, talked to us about, some of the things going on with Park right now that you all probably heard, at least in the news, if nothing, nowhere else. They're facing what they're calling the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff is mainly generated because, the COVID era stimulus funds are about to go away as of, summer 2025. And so they're trying to figure out what they can do. They've announced some route cuts in the form of what they're calling, what they call it, Saturday Plus, I think is what they call it. That basically their weekday schedule is gonna become their Saturday schedule. Fewer buses, longer headways, more minutes between the next bus coming. They are gonna keep their service pretty strong on some of their core routes. For those that don't know, a huge percentage of their ridership is on a very small percentage of their routes. That makes sense. That I think they say like over half is on like 5 routes. They've got maybe 25. So stay tuned on that. There's still more to be determined. They've got a route restructure coming, program that's going on this summer, through the end of the year. We also announced, the recipients, for next year's, planning funds. KIPDA MPO, makes some of our planning funds available to local communities in the MPO urban areas. And so we received, applications from TARC, from U of L, from Clarksville, and from Floyd County. And, there wasn't enough money to go around, never is. We had 200,000 available, and, so we were able to fund 3 of those 4. Floyd County, Clarksville, and U of L all have, multimodal efforts that they want to put forth through the planning study. So those projects are going to be funded in fiscal year 25 with some of the KIPDA planning funds. Another thing to mention was some changes to our project management guidebook for those in the NPO area, especially in Kentucky. This defines how you all get your cost increases, your phase shifts and the rules. It's kind of a rule book for that. And so we made a few changes based on some working group recommendations over the last couple of months. And there are a few other admin mods. So with that, I will end right there because I know I have a few other agenda items. So I will end right there and happy to take any questions about the TDC meeting.
Any questions for Andy? You're still up.
I guess there is action to approve that report. There's action to approve.
I'm sorry.
To approve that report.
Do I have a motion to approve TPC? Have a motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I'm still up, aren't I?
Yeah.
So one of the items that I failed to mention or didn't mention intentionally was the approval of our Unified Planning Works Program. That's the MPO's, basically our annual budget. So it defines where we get our money from, our dollars where we get it from, where we get the local match from, et cetera. So I've got a real brief presentation. I'll go quick on count of time. So again, it describes what we do, how much it'll cost, and where the money comes from. Okay, so every year we have to approve this, and this is a item that does get approved both by the TPC and the KIPDA Board of Directors. It includes our MPO work elements, long-range planning, short-range planning, et cetera. It includes our rideshare program that we branded as Every Commute Counts. Every Commute Counts is our regional van pool program. It also includes some of our ongoing contracts we have to do traffic counting, flood data, et cetera, and some of those planning studies I just mentioned. It's due for approval. There's a draft that was submitted to the TPC in February. It's approved then. We've got some comments from the Federal Highway Administration, made those. Went out, required to be out for public review, did that. And today we're here to get TPC and board approval, and we'll get our contracts with our 2 state partners, KYPC and NDOT, over the next month or 2. Not a whole lot has changed from last year. Kentucky money stays pretty steady, says exactly steady, frankly. For Indiana money, we took a little bit of a hit. That has to do with, remember how we talked about the census defined area kind of shrunk, the urbanized area shrunk a little bit, so it took a little bit of hit because of the population of the Louisville area that's in Indiana grew at a slower rate than the urban areas across Indiana, the other areas. That makes sense. Includes our FRA, our Railroad Administration, our SS4A, Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, more on that in a later agenda item. And it has some of that money for planning studies and some of the carryover funding. I think that's all I have. The sum total is kind of cut off at the bottom of the screen. It's $5.6 million this upcoming year. And that includes all of our federal funds and the local match and all traditional fund, I guess, the formula fund. So, with that, I will be happy to answer any questions about our work program. That ends that report.
Any questions about the work program? Okay, we need action to approve this also.
Please.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more questions? Landy? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, you're still up.
I'm very used to it. I'll go quick, and I'll hurry. The Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, that's the regional safety grant that KIPDA applied for some number of months ago. We've got that kicked off. KIPDA staff been meeting with our consultant team probably since I think mid-February. And then earlier this month, mid-April, I think many of you all were here, or representatives from your agencies were here. We kicked it off with all of you all, which are our stakeholders. And so at that meeting, we covered how this is going to go. Remember, this is the plan where there's going to be a regional safety plan, and then 16 individual jurisdictions that are part of this. Most of you all, that is 16 smaller plans. So you will have that plan to take forth and to pursue safety projects from that plan as soon as around this time next year. And so the things we covered that day, we talked a little bit about how the community and stakeholder engagement is going to go. I think the next thing that you guys need to know is probably sometime around this summer. The consultant team and KIPDA staff will be there too, of course. That's what we want to do one-on-ones with everybody to say what's going on in Henry County. Let's make sure those top priorities that maybe aren't popping from the crash data, what's going on in Jay County, what's going on in Bull County, et cetera. One-on-ones probably at KIPDA. Our Southern Indiana will probably set up shop in Southern Indiana to do a day or half day over there too. And then if you can't make it, we can do a virtual one-on-one if you need to. So that's probably coming this summer. We talked about the project schedule. The important thing about the project schedule is that we hope to be done again by this time next year. Hopefully the projects that are listed in your individual plan will be ready earlier than this time next year. Why that's important is because the notice of funding opportunity for the SS4A is around now, next spring. And so we want everybody to be able to go chase those dollars, the implementation dollars, in that next call for funding that would be next year. So that's why that's important. Again, we talked about the project schedule. Again, probably be done this time next year. I think that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know the RTC covered this a little bit too, so be happy to answer any questions on that one as well.
Anyone have any questions? Landy?
No action is requested.
No action is requested. Okay. Seeing no questions, let's move on to number 10.
So number 10 can be
FRA project.
Yes, sir. It can be found on page 58 in your meeting packet. Another major grant that we've talked about a little bit over the last number of months is this Federal Railroad Administration Corridor Identification and Development Program. KIPDA was one of, I want to say maybe around 20 or so agencies nationwide that was awarded funding for what's known as step one of this process. And our process, to remind you, is to assess the viability of passenger rail reemerging from Louisville to Indianapolis. Okay, and then NDOT, friends at NDOT, were also successful in getting the same grant to look at making improvements to passenger rail service between Indianapolis and to Chicago, therefore making that 300-something mile journey possible once again. Amtrak left Louisville in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, for the last time. And so so we're underway on that. In March, KIPDA issued the RFQ to prospective consulting firms, engineering planning consulting firms. The deadline to respond was a couple weeks ago, April 12th. The selection committee was made up of, we met earlier this week, made up of KIPDA staff, Louisville Metro, City of Indianapolis, NDOT, Town of Clarksville. That was a 5-agency selection committee. We met earlier this week to discuss the proposals and the scores. And so I'm here today to announce the selected, consulting firm and to get we're requesting action to ask, board approval to get the staff to engage that firm in contract negotiations. And the firm that the selection committee chose, was AECOM. AECOM is a global firm that has a heavy, local presence. So they demonstrated an outstanding understanding of the assignment, basically meaning, they understand what's going on here in the mobile, they understand what we've been missing. They also understand from the national perspective, how this passenger rail reemergence is likely to happen. So they've got some really great expertise in some of the projects they've worked on and some of the people they're gonna have, work on this one. So be happy to answer any questions. We did receive 4 responses. I think I failed to mention that. AECOM was one, from Deloitte was another, Steer, formerly known as Steer Davis Lead, was a third, and then, Patrick was another firm. We had several great proposals, several really good proposals, and so, AECOM was the selection. So that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Andy? And you need action on that?
Yes, please.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carried.
Tie a ribbon on that one real quick. The schedule that we put forth suggested that it's probably, about a 6-month process. Is that right, Kyle? 6-month process for this step 1. Step 2 is the longer drawn out one, the more expensive one, frankly. Remember that this original grant required no local match. That's why it was an incredible deal, right? Step 2 will require a local match. And so we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. So just to add on to that.
Okay, next item is, streetlight data contract renewal.
With me again, this can be found on page 59 of your packet. The streetlight subscription, you hear me talk about it probably about every year this time. Streetlight data that has nothing to do with the streetlights that illuminate our streets out there. Streetlight Data Incorporated is a company that provides state-of-the-art traffic data. KIPDA utilizes that data to do primarily origin destination studies, both at the regional level for our travel demand model and on the corridor level. We assist KYPC and local governments on providing some of that smaller level corridor origin destination. How many trips are starting in spot A and those vehicles make it all the way to the end of the corridor, or how many are more local, how many are turning halfway there, what have you. We also, one of the benefits we found, and perhaps, dare I say, have become addicted to the streetlight data, is because it basically has eliminated the need for us to do much traffic counting. KIPDA had a robust traffic counting program, and we get requests regularly. There's one from Oldham County last week or the week before last. Hey, can you do a turning movement count? Can you provide a turning movement count data on this one spot? And back in the day, it would be like, yeah, it's spring break right now, so give us a month or something. We'll get out there when the traffic gets right again. Now we can do a query in 15 minutes, and it makes it so easy for us. It is expensive data. It certainly is expensive data, and I do not want to minimize the cost. But this is in our approved work program for this year. But we are in need of a contract renewal for another year. That cost is $104,000 federal, $130,000 overall for an update. So it's a big ask, but it is in that work program budget that I was mentioning in a prior item. That was that for.
Anyone have any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract renewal.
So second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, contract with KYTC.
Last one.
You're still up.
So it's last one, I promise. So this can be found on page 60 of your packet. So each year, some of those funds that were in that youth work program that I was mentioning in that earlier agenda item, one of the earlier agenda items, that's it there, I said, is all of our federal formula funds. Formula funds meaning money that comes from federal highways, Federal Transit Administration via KYTC and NDOT to KIPDA, okay? One of those components is the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, Section 5303 grant program. We are required by KYTC to apply for that money each and every year. The other dollars come without application. This one is one of 4 key ones that we have, and so we have to apply for that. And so they require a authorizing resolution that must be signed by the board chairman and Mr. Haley. And so I'm here requesting that a little bit more detail that the money that is going to be in this contract for this upcoming year is the same as the last several years. That is $250,000 federal dollars to be matched with 62,000, 20%, 62,500 or the 20% 80-20 split there. So again, this is a bit of a procedural thing. This is a request to enter into that contract once again this year, this upcoming year. Happy to answer any questions about those funds or anything else.
Any questions, Rain? Okay, we need a motion to accept the contract. Got a motion, a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
I'll sit down now.
Next item, Reasonable Transportation Council. Mick.
Yes, the Regional Transportation Council meeting was held at 1 p.m. today in the KIPDA conference room. The first agenda item is the January 25th meeting minutes. There were no public comments. Jackie Jones of KYTC was our guest speaker. She had a discussion about the TAP program. Members provided a report of county transportation updates. And in other business, a list of the regional projects included in the biennial and 6-year highway plan were provided to members. This included 180 million in Shelby County, 141 million in Spencer County, 43 million in Henry County, and 21 million in Trimble County. Many of the projects from the SHIFT process were included. An update was also provided on the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, which Andy mentioned, and had a steering committee meeting on April 10th. Of the 16 participating jurisdictions, the highest fatality rates over the past 5 years for non-interstate roads were Trimble County and Henry County. Both of them had a greater than 1 fatality per 1,000 residents, which just emphasizes how important that program is. The next KIPDA Regional Transportation Council meeting will be held on July 25th. And that concludes my report.
Does anyone have any questions of Mick? Need a motion to accept his report? And a second? Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mick. Next item, Regional Planning Council. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a very brief update on our Regional Planning Council. It's met here on April 9th from 11 to 12. We heard some updates from KIPDA. One, probably the biggest one, is that the community energy resiliency project is wrapping up. So this was a project that KIPDA has contracted the Energy and Environment Cabinet with to assess the energy capacity of critical facilities in our region, and also to build on the critical facilities list for a housing mitigation plan. We'll be having our second and final stakeholder meeting for this project on June 17th. That'll be here in the KIPDA boardroom and virtually as well. Our guest speaker was Lane Goldman, who is the executive director for the Kentucky Conservation Committee. They're an environmental lobbying group that provides resources on environmental legislation and economic development revolving around trail development and conservation. They primarily deal with education materials for citizens. So she came to talk to us about some of the work that they do, and also some of the growing interest from our counties around solar development. So with the recent award with the Solar for All program to the Energy and Environment Cabinet, which was for 62 million. As many of you know, solar development is a topic that's kind of a growing thing here in our region. And Lane, ACC has a lot of good resources for your constituents if solar development is something that they're interested in learning more about. Our next Regional Planning Council meeting will be the second Tuesday of July, coming up this summer. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Going back to as requested.
Anyone have any questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept this report. A motion, second? Have a second, all in favor? Thank you, Ryan. Next item, Regional Water Management Council. Justin?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. The KIPDA Regional Water Management Council meeting right here on the Burke Room and via Zoom on Tuesday, April 9th. We had guest speaker Amber Hawkins, the Division of Water. She gave us a presentation on watershed planning technical assistance and a 319 grant, which is for watershed plans for our communities. Anybody needs any funding for watershed plans. There's several of them right now that actually do. So the 319 grant is a great funding source for that. Wolfie Miller and Nicole Repolo were also here with Louisville MSD. They kind of kept the watershed and stormwater theme going. They spoke about how Louisville MSD is tackling watersheds planning in their communities, and they had a Louisville MSD rainy day funding program. It strategizes ways to fund stormwater needs and specific projects within Louisville Metro, Oldham and Bull counties in their jurisdiction. We had them kind of, as not to have a duplicative effort, to have a watershed plan for the region, and there's also watershed for certain cities, counties, communities. So you can it's kind of scalable in scope. If anybody is interested, we can help assist that, and I can also apply for those on your own behalf. We also had Joanna Ashford from the Watershed Management Branch of the Kentucky Division of Water. She presented on sewer overflow and stormwater reuse municipal grant. That's a grant that will be available until June 30th. So if anybody's interested in applying for that, please contact our said division. We can help you apply for that. It's being offered through the Green Infrastructure Assistance Program. So the past year or so, we've had a lot of speakers come and speak about green infrastructure and nature-based solutions, how to incorporate those into projects. And there's also funding, and the state revolving fund loan is also kind of beefing up the efforts to incorporate that and get points for green infrastructure and stormwater components. We approved one new wastewater project, which is up here on the screen. It was Louisville MSD Drainage Response Initiative, otherwise known as their DRY project. This project will improve drainage, stormwater management, and water quality through the reduction of standing water, roadside flooding, and stream and floodway erosion in neighborhoods susceptible to stormwater issues, and increasing damage from extreme weather events. The project will utilize an EPA community grant for MSD's Drainage Response Initiative program to address additional neighborhood drainage issues at up to 17 prioritized locations in Jefferson County. The estimated total cost of this is around $500,000, but it's scalable to be able to include more, since the demand and the need is way greater than that as well. Conducting system visits right now with all of our systems in our region, about 80% done with that. Those will conclude here in May, and we'll get all the WRS portal updated with those. And we're also working on wrapping up cleaner water program projects. So we can see the light in the tunnel there, and we're ready to assist your all's communities in the next funding that will come out through KIA to help out with public infrastructure. Our next KIPDA Regional Water Management Council meeting will be held here on July 9th in the Burke Room and virtually via Zoom. And that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them.
Any questions for Justin? I'll entertain a motion to accept his report.
Motion.
Second, have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Chairman.
Next item, CED Division contract, Alicia.
Good afternoon. I'm asking for approval to enter into a contract with the city of Taylorsville. They received a grant for a community development block grant for a U of L urgent care within the city limits. That grant will be or the administration cost will be for $25,000. So I'm asking for approval for KIPDA to enter into a contract with the city of Taylorsville.
Okay, no questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So you get that report. Next item.
This is just a courtesy that the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security will be hosting a training here at KIPDA. This is cybersecurity training and will be geared towards the Kentucky water and wastewater facilities that will be here at KIPDA on Wednesday, May 22nd from 9 to 12 p.m. More information will be sent out to you all via email once I receive that from the Office of Homeland Security, and no action is needed.
Thank you. You're still up.
This is agenda number 18. I am asking for approval for the Area Development Fund. We have had 2 projects that are submitted. The first one is Spencer County. They are going to submit an application for the Spencer County Park Improvement Project. And the ADF funds will be used to purchase 2 swing sets for the 2 county parks. The project cost is $4,798, and the ADF funds that will be used is $4,629.77. The second project is for Trimble County. They are submitting an application for landscaping at Trimble County Courthouse. The ADF funds will be used to replace landscaping that was damaged by the extreme cold temperatures. And that project cost is $6,000 with ADF funds of $4,629.77. Those are the 2 applications that I have received so far with your all ADF funds. If you have not get those in, if you get those in to me as soon as possible, we can get those approved next month at the KIPDA board meeting. So action is requested on those 2 applications.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Felicia.
Let them show that Jim Travis and I didn't vote.
Okay,
One was in our county.
you're still on.
Okay. This is the Indiana legislative update. Ethan could not be here today, so I am giving that, so please bear with me. The General Assembly in Indiana adjourned on March 8th. A couple bills that became law are House Bill 1383 relating to wetlands and Senate Bill 135 redistricting. House Bill 1383 makes changes to the definitions of Class 2 and Class 3 wetlands and clarifies the mitigation that must be offered to offset certain wetland activity. And Senate Bill 135 establishes certain redistricting deadlines. Senate Bill 190, this bill makes changes to permissible use for the state disaster relief funds and changes eligibility requirements. It increases from $10,000 to $25,000, the amount of loss that may be compensated for damages to individuals' property. Senate Bill 5, which deals with lead water line replacement. The point of the bill is to expedite replacement of lead service lines in Indiana. And the bill also allows landlords to enroll in a program to have the pipes replaced. There was various bills that impact taxation, including House Bill 1120 and 1121, dealing with local income taxes and property taxes. Senate Bill 183 allows county councils to exempt mobile homes from taxation. House Bill 1302, the bill would require county executives to submit their EMS data and plan to the Department of Homeland Security, who would then analyze the data and create a report to explore ways to improve EMS services and address workplace shortages. And Senate Bill or House Bill 1387 proposes various changes to the Residential Housing Infrastructure Assistance Program. Expands the definition of economic development facilities to include housing facilities. And that concludes the report.
Does anyone have any questions of Felicia?
Also, if there's anything to add by Commissioner Kaufman.
No, she pretty much covered the main bills too. There's also another bill that's probably gonna come up next session on contracting approval capabilities by the county executive over other elected official offices. They didn't want to address it, it just, we come up with the next session next year.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next item, ARPA funding, Jennifer Wilson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with an update on the American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA funding. There's no attachment. Just here with a reminder that for most cities and counties in our region, annual reports are due on April 30th, which is next Tuesday. If you have any questions about submitting a report, please feel free to contact me. A note, even if you expended all funds before submitting last year's report, you are still required to submit a report this April. And also just another reminder that all funds that you receive must be legally obligated under a contract or a purchase order by December 31 of this year, or they must be returned to the U.S. Treasury. So please keep that in mind when you're preparing budget. No action is requested.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. Number 21. 2024 social service business.
Good afternoon.
Tricia.
I don't have my name listed as many times as Andy did, but I probably have as many items, so I will kind of move through these as quickly as I can. We're gonna ask that the board ratify the executive committee approval and the executive director sign the contract. I'm sorry if you're with Metro, Rural Metro, asked that you abstain from any vote for this. But to approve a contract for Louisville Metro Office of Resilience and Community Services as a subcontractor for our KHBE program, or the connector program that we always like to tell you all about. We're super excited to get to bring subcontractors in on this and need your approval to move forward with that.
Make a motion.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Anyone have any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. You all recently approved contract awards for FY 25 for us, which included 2 new providers for home care. And we have been fortunate enough to be able to bring those contractors on to begin services in home care starting in May. So they will do May and June in FY 24, which will help us to increase our services and get clients off of wait lists. So we are asking that you again ratify the executive committee's approval to award FY 24 contract for May and June for independent assistance of Bluegrass and Visiting Angels for home care services.
Motion, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, sir. I can't take the next 2 together because they are out of the same program. We have some ARPA funding opportunities. We're approved to do some respite for our grandparent caregivers to send their children to, or send their grandchildren, sorry, to a week of summer camp. So we are asking to ratify the executive committee's approval and the executive director's signing on memorandums of understanding for the YMCA, Black Acres, Louisville Metro Parks, and All About Kids. And they also awarded us ARPA funds, or the opportunity to use ARPA funds for caregiver respite in the form of house cleaning. So we were able to send some companies in to assist with getting the caregiver, the care receivers home clean, to give that caregiver a break. Those agreements are with Mary Maids of Louisville, the Cleaning Authority, and the Maids in Southern Louisville, so to do deep cleaning. And again, asking to ratify the executive committee's approval and executive director's signature.
I'll make a motion.
I have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And last one for item 21 is to ratify the executive director signing a memorandum of agreement for the Veterans Directed Care Program. This program is much like what we do with our waiver. We will be working with the Pennyrile ad to do this program. Ratify his signature on that agreement.
Okay. Got a motion, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Tricia.
I get to stay up here again.
Okay.
I am also going to do agenda item number 22. So, you just approved us to bring our FY 25 subcontractors for home care in starting in May and June. Since we're giving them that opportunity, we would also like to request opportunity to increase the rates for our current home care providers to match the rates that they will be getting in their FY 25 contract. So it kind of shows you, there's an agenda item that shows you what those rate increases are.
Are we doing the whole page at one time?
Unfortunately, they're different,
Okay.
programs, so we will have to do
Each one,
a few
okay.
different ones.
Okay, and the first one was the
It's
home
for the home care contract amendments.
amendments, okay. Do I hear a motion? Second,
Second.
all in favor? Motion carries, okay.
Thank you very much. The next item we have is for our Title III-E for a contract amendment for U of L Traeger Institute. We want to add $61,168 in ARPA funding to the contract. This does two things. The first thing we're going to do is just to extend or increase our regular services that they're providing for this year because they are able to reach out to more clients. And then second is going to be to start up a new respite program. So give them the funding to start a new respite program where they send community health workers in 5 days a week for 4 hours to provide respite for the caregiver. This funding will get them through September 30th. And then I think they are working on a grant to carry that forward under a different funding source, hopefully, going forward. So we ask for your approval to amend that contract.
Do I have a motion? Second, all in favor? Carries.
Thank you. Just two left. The next one is for a Title III C1 amendment to a contract for Louisville Metro. So again, if anybody's here with Metro, we ask that you abstain. We'd like to add $24,000 in ARPA funds for C1 eligibility services. We're feeding more people, so it takes a little more work.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
One more.
Last one. So the last one is we're requesting an amendment to the Title III-B contract for Tri-County Community Action Agency. This is a neat program that we got approved for ARPA funding to do. We're calling it Out and About. But for them to provide transportation to the grocery store or to church or other various social and recreational activities. And the funding is up to $40,000. So we request your approval for that. Anyone who will be involved with the Tri-County, we ask that you same thing to that.
That ain't me, I'll make a motion.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I have a
All-
question.
Okay.
And it's all of these these are from ARPA funds. So where's the ARPA pot? Just,
We work with all our agencies on a regular basis to let them know. We kind of, what are your ideas? What do you need? We still have some ARPA funds left.
okay.
So if they have ideas or things that they want to do, our ARPA funds are a little different than everybody else's for whatever reason with ACL. ARPA funds have to be expired by September 30th.
Okay, yeah.
And that's spent, not just obligated, it's spent by
Yeah.
September 30th, and the state's been requesting, because they've been pulling some money back for statewide projects, so. Our team's really worked hard with our providers trying to come up with these projects.
But I mean, we're certainly open to any ideas that you have, you can let us know. Yeah, especially in our caregiver program, our 3D programs, and 3D health prevention, health promotion, disease prevention. Hey, thank you all.
Okay, next item, social services area plan updates. Jessica.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bearing with us. I said, we got the agenda full this month, and Felicia and Andy looked at me and laughed. They had more than we did, and I said, well, go on with your show. I'm gonna make this one real easy on you. So I'm asking for ratification and signature to our area plan. And if you all recall, our area plan is a 3-year plan. This is the last year of a 3-year plan. You have an email. Your updates are in blue and salmon, orange. There are no major changes to the area plan. We actually just removed some things that we weren't able to accomplish under ARPA and added the things that we were. We added about 20 community partners, which is the greatest part of that plan. We updated our financials and our client counts. The executive committee did approve that area plan. I just need approval for the chairman to sign it today. If you have any questions, please ask. Next year is a big round of area plan. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
In a second.
I'll say.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. You're still up, Jessica.
All right, let's dig in. Not too far, though, small hole. So I think you've heard us talk about, if you haven't heard it out there in public, Rachel's gonna pass something out for you too, while I talk about this part. The state redid applications for all 6 of the Medicaid waivers in our state. So here at KIPDA, what that means for us is our HCB PDS program and our Michelle P PDS waiver program, where people hire individuals to perform their services in their homes. We provide case management and SMS for that service. They applied to CMS to bring in some of those COVID protocols that they've been using to make those permanent. They made some other updates that I'm going to talk to you about. Just pertaining to the waivers that we actually have. So they call that the appendix K that they did during COVID. So policies that are added permanently, and I'll get to this piece you have in front of you right after some of these updates. We can now do telehealth, meaning that not every single visit, but visits can be done over telehealth. We are going to use Teams to do that. We can make some phone calls. So we'll be making less frequent visits to homes. That saves some costs. I also believe our team and the participants that we currently have, they have really great relationships. We really do have some long-term participants, so it makes sense. They tell us when things are going on, that we can see them, over Zoom or Teams. Sorry, I'll say Zoom over and over again, every other month. It added some non-medical services and hospital settings. We don't see that being used too frequently. So if somebody goes into a hospital setting and maybe the hospital doesn't have a service provider, we can potentially provide it under PDS. It's expanded the PDS case management and financial management services, and that's part of what you're looking at now that I will expand on in a second. So it allowed other PDS case management providers. They took other qualified providers such as CMHC's adult day health providers and allowed them to apply to be PDS. Prior to that, the only 2 PDS providers in our region is ourselves, and 7 counties picked up HCB, but they only took on a couple clients because they couldn't staff it. So we do have a few more out there now. A couple of them are statewide. It allowed participants to hire someone that were 18 and above now instead of 21 and above to provide services, and it's going to retain the temporary rate increases. So somewhere towards the middle of the pandemic, they actually did a rate increase to our case management and financial management. We are still, there's another, if you hear about rates, we are still awaiting from the state. The state did a study on rates, and they do plan to hopefully increase rates. We have not seen what those rates are going to be. We don't exactly know when they're going to be implemented, but we're being told they will be implemented. I'm looking at my boss in case he heard anything else this week.
Not this week. I met with Secretary Freelander, I guess it's about 3 weeks ago now, and there is a rate increase, but I think it's still embargoed, so it hasn't been released, so we're still waiting to see what those final figures look like.
Yeah, so still seeing how that whole process works. It increased frozen meals to be added in the meal programs that people need meals, and they don't have somebody available, so they can get those now. And it expanded other provider types. There's some other things in there that I think that your constituents, this one will come up, so. In these programs, prior to COVID, if a person was a certain person in your life, say a parent, a spouse, directly related to you, they had to go through a process to be approved. They couldn't just pick that person and say, okay, this person can work. During COVID, that all went away. If you choose anyone, that person can work for you, right? So now, in these new waivers, they're doing what they call LRIs, or legally responsible individuals. That's a parent or guardian of a minor child, a spouse, or any individual defined in state law as a parent, step parent, adoptive parent, court-appointed legal guardian of a minor child under 18, and court-appointed legal guardians of an adult. So basically, anybody in your life that has direct responsibility to take care of you or make decisions for you will have to go through this process. These changes are implemented May 1st. The state is still designing how to implement legally responsible individuals. If an individual is one of those individuals working now, they will go through that process. So some of these employees that are working for people may not be employees in the future, but they're going on by research. So not everybody's going through this process on May 1st. You go on your annual recertification date. The state has assured us that while that process is going on, that person can still work. So if you hear any of that out in your community about, oh my gosh, I'm providing service for somebody, and I don't think I'm going to be soon because of this, please assure them there is a process for that. You will still work through that process. You have the right to appeal. If the state decides that no, you should not necessarily be that person's employee, we advocate on your behalf. And we will walk through that. Any questions, you know how to reach me?
Sure.
So what you have in front of you. So as I said, the state expanded PDS providers for case management. So agencies out there can apply to be PDS waiver providers, meaning they can provide the in-home service. They're going out, they're doing care plans with you, they're setting up services. They're reviewing timesheets. We have a great system here, KIPDA EDV system, Mainsail. And we have been contacted by a couple of those. They got certified towards the end of February, but started conversations with us prior to that. One of them is Freedom Adult Day Health Center. So myself, Mr. Haley, our waiver coordinator, our financial team, has been working diligently to draw up an agreement to provide FMS services for this particular organization. They will provide case management. We will provide the FMS portion, meaning that they will do all the work in the field. That participant's payroll will come to us, just like our internal ones do now through our system. I want to point out this because the free to onboard and some other things prior to 4 months ago, we would pay out funds, because I know some of you know this, and then be reimbursed by the state. We now have a mechanism in place where we pay out FMS funds that we actually receive the payment just prior to paying it out. I want you to know that fair. This agreement you have in front of you may change just slightly. I do want you to know that, but this is the major bones of it. We just spoke back and forth with Mitzi to get this done today, because it's important that if we're going to contract with them, we need to do it now. They could choose someone else if anybody else was willing, but we don't see that out there. So we have an opportunity to contract with them, provide FMS, and bring in some revenue in our community for these participants. Any questions? I know that's a lot and something I haven't ever talked to you about before, so.
To go through the timeline, last May, we learned that they were gonna add these new case management agencies. Then probably in September, October, we learned that the area development districts were gonna be asked to provide the financial management portion. Before we were able to bring this to the board, there were liability questions and we needed to get clarification on that. And we have worked with the cabinet and the Department of Medicaid to get those clarifications on what our responsibility is and what the responsibility of the provider, the case management agency is. So we've got that worked out with them, and that is when we drafted this language. But as Jessica alluded to, they started approving these case management agencies in February. So they have been chomping at the bit to get started,
Yes.
but we have been having to walk through the process to figure out our protections before we brought this to the board. So that's why it is important to get this action so we can move forward, because these agencies are ready to begin providing services. And I think that the state is leaning on us heavily to provide these services.
They absolutely are. And we believe that this covers any liability that we thought we may have in there, and it covers us and protects us from that liability. We talked a lot about, recoupment, things like that.
The state's assured us that those are on the case management agencies and even the participants themselves. We are simply providing the financial management services.
Do we need a vote on this or is this?
Yes, thank you, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve.
In a second? You
Second.
got a second? Any questions of Jessica?
And I'll keep you all updated on how it's going as well.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Chairman, I know you're gonna, pull back up here, but I would like to take a second just to introduce her before she comes to the podium. Ms. Beth Morgan is about to come to the podium she is our new Aging and Disability Resource Coordinator. She formerly worked in our department as a nutrition assessor and then also before then at Southwest Ministries, right? On one side, Southeast, in their nutrition program. So we're so happy to have her. Please welcome her to the podium today to talk about our fanfare event. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So I just wanted to give everyone an update. Our 9th annual fanfare will take place on Saturday, June 8th at the Edison Center. We're currently in we're collecting donations, both monetary and tangible, brand new box fans. We served approximately 200 people at the actual event. And then we disseminated about 350 fans to the outer lying counties and other homebound seniors in Jefferson County. So, yeah, we are excited about this. Paul Masterson, very generously out of the blue, donated $2,000 to be a sponsor, and that's really going to help us this year. Lowe's partners with us. Lowe's on Preston Highway, I believe, they allow us to purchase the fans at cost. So that really helps. There's not another Lowe's in town that will do that. So we will drive over there and collect all those fans. So does anyone have any questions? Yes, Sunday, May 26th, we will air our advertisement with WLKY promoting the event. So you can look for me and Allie Woosley with Louisville Metro, and if anyone desires to volunteer the day of the event, we welcome that as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beth. Next item, April personnel. Megan?
Hi, everyone. Just a few quick notes from me. Joseph Garcia resigned as our GIS specialist last month. We got 2 new hires. Kelly Yurt returned to KIPDA from, she previously worked as a service advisor. Now she's working with Beth in ADRC. And then Adam Forsyth, he used to work in our GIS department. He retired and he's coming back to KIPDA as a GIS specialist on Monday. We've got a handful of vacancies. We still need 1 more ADRC specialist. We need 2 full-time connectors, and we no longer need the 4th bullet there, a part-time connector in E-Town because we found that and hired this week. As always, job postings can be found on our website, and our staff count is 80 full-time permanent, 3 part-time permanent, and 3 part-time temporary.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay, next items, intergovernmental review.
Can we get an action to accept Megan's report?
Okay, I'm moving.
Second.
Thank
All
you.
in favor? Motion carried.
We are on the home stretch. Intergovernmental reviews, there are 13. These are included in your packet. All 13 have been sent out for local review. No comments have been received. So items A through M can be taken together for action. Action is requested.
Have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Anyone have any questions about any of these? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item, Executive Director's Report.
First, I want to recognize after the roll call, Ms. Diana Arnold joined us, as well as Mayor Pike and Mayor Ethington. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for everybody for being here today. Just kind of to wrap up the legislative session, the Council of Area Development Districts had 4 priorities this session, with it being a budget year. The first being the joint funding agreement, which is what funds our CED department primarily. In the last biennium budget, we received the first increase in over 25 years. And in fact, over those 25 years, the funding had decrease. So our request this session was for level funding. We received level funding. The water management, which is what Justin, you're very familiar with it, his activities, well as Amory Sacra on our GIS side. We had requested, an increase in funding because we have had decreases, over the past decade. So, the budget included an additional $800,000 statewide, and this will return us to our 2013 level funding. On the social services side, the cabinet's request was $10 million for the expanded senior meals program. So that was what we advocated for. The budget includes $10 million. And then on the ombudsman side, there's been a very big shortfall. There's been kind of almost an unfunded mandate with requirements from the prior sessions with the legislation filed by former Senator Alvarado, which included assisted living beds for the ombudsman program. So we have requested an additional $1 million to fund those programs statewide, and that was included. So again, very successful legislative session. Thank you for everybody in here for your efforts and reaching out to our legislators. We do have a few travel items for approval. The first is the ratification of the KAED, Kentucky Collaboration Conference. This is going on currently. Ethan Scroggie is there. It's in Somerset. Ethan has been reporting back, I think, consistently, so I think he's got a lot to bring back. So I'm excited to see what he has in store with funding opportunities for you all when he comes back. So with that being a ratification, I need to take that one separately. So action is requested to ratify Ethan's travel to the KAED conference.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I do have 5 more travel items for approval. The first is the Kentucky Association of Government Communicators Spring Conference. This is in Bowling Green. Greg Burris will be attending. Greg currently serves as the Vice President of Administration for the council. And again, that travel is in Bowling Green. The next item is the May Ad Directors Meeting. This is for my travel item. The ad directors meet monthly. Typically we meet in Frankfurt, but 2 times a year to reduce the travel for our folks in the west and the east. We go to them. So this will be the travel for me to go to Gilbertsville. It's going to be held at Kentucky Dam Village, May 8th through 10th. The KPHRA conference. This is the Kentucky Public Human Resource Association Spring Conference. This will be attended by Megan, our Director of Human Resources. It's in Georgetown, Kentucky. Then we have the Embracing the Next Best Years of Your Life Conference. This will be attended by our caregivers, Amanda Davis and Mary Ann Hall. This conference is in Lexington. And then finally, the National Association of Development Organizations Annual Board of Directors Conference. I am one of 12 members of the Southeast that serves on the NATO board. And that travel is June 4th to June 7th in Santa Fe, New Mexico, again, I would be attending. So board action is requested for those 5 travel items.
Do I hear a motion and a second? Any questions? All in favor?
And then finally, just next month's meeting, the Transportation and Technical Coordinating Committee will meet on May 8th here in the Burke Room and on Zoom at noon. And then on May 23rd, we'll have our Transportation Policy Committee meeting in here at 12:30, and then the May Board of Directors meeting will be at 2 o'clock. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Any other business come before the board?
Yes, sir. I would like to thank the Bears Group for coming up to the local career fair that we had in Kermit County. And I'd also like to thank the county judges in this group, group and other county judges when we had the tornado in Trimble County. Derek reached out, asked if we needed anything. Scott, Judge from Gallatin County sent a crew down for a couple of days. So I really appreciate everybody reaching out and helping us through that situation. So, and if we can ever repay the favor, please don't hesitate to reach out. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for that.
Same thing for Henry County. We had it about a week and a half after John did, and everybody reached out to us, and I do appreciate it. From the governor's office on down, everybody reached out to us, and it's really overwhelming to have a disaster, but it's overwhelming the amount of people that's willing to help when there is a disaster too, so I'm thankful for that.
Thank you. Any,
More, it's a Kentucky League of Cities gonna come and give an update too.
I was gonna reach out to JD and, Brianna to see if they would be able to come.
Thank you.
He gave a nice update to JCLC last Thursday and it helped a lot, I thought, in explaining things.
Okay.
I will say one thing, is that Jeffersontown has taken a very aggressive action towards the new legalized marijuana. We've already had the first reading and we went back the next day for the second reading, and Fred has put a lot of I'm gonna say a lot of bones in this, that because we've already had major issues out there. We've been doing some undercover work and they're already selling marijuana. We got 5 pounds last week at one particular place that is not selling anything but oil. And then we found that according to our police department, that they are expanding and I don't know about this, but they expand the gummies, and then you can take the gummies and you can get it expanded, you can put more in it. I don't know. I'm just telling everybody, just watch out if they're in your city, because, see what's going on, because we don't want it, I don't want JW to be known for that. And we had 5 of them within a 1 mile district, and we're gonna have that.
They follow the laws of medical marijuana or just selling marijuana?
They're selling marijuana, but we're getting, Rick Sanders, our chief, is really concerned about what's gonna happen here. Kind of January, but I didn't know that it was gonna start in July, so I'm glad that I heard that today, that we need to do something before then, so. Just telling them, watch out, what's going on in the city, like that. Thank you, that's all I have.
thank you, Mayor. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.